Flightcast, a place where opinions aren't right or wrong, and where we can agree or disagree about movies, TV, and other assorted media because it's all subjective. And believe me, this episode is going to test those three words a lot. My name is Ray. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, DC fans, how you doing? Everybody, all the DC fans on social media, how's it going? How's the last couple of days been? We need to talk. Yeah, we need to have a conversation because seriously, shit's got out of hand again. And yeah, we need to have another come to Zod meeting over some things with respect to the Man of Steel himself. Oh no, I said Man of Steel out loud. I meant to say Superman the movie. Oh no, I meant to say Superman. Whatever. Seriously, we have to talk about Superman again, and we got to talk about fan behavior again. But before doing all of that, I want to talk about the extended preview that caused all of this shit again, because I talked about it a little bit on Patreon. But before diving headfirst into this particular subject, what is going to be a ranty episode, so buckle up for that. I want to remind everybody that this show and my other shows can be found at theflightcast.com or wherever you get your podcast, whether it is Apple Podcasts, whether it's the Flightcast YouTube channel, whether it is Spotify or Pandora. You can find this show every Monday. You can also find Flightbox, the TV review show that I do every Wednesday. Right now, we're in the middle of Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, otherwise known as Marvel Daredevil, or Netflix Daredevil, mind you, Season 4. 2 episodes to go. We've got the penultimate episode that we're going to be dropping tomorrow, and the review for that Flightbox episode will be on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And Friday Flight, the new-ish listener feedback show, weekly. That's right, weekly for people. Just a reminder, we've gone back to weekly for that every Friday here at theflightcast.com, or again, wherever you get your podcast, even if it's for one of those 4 sources I mentioned, Apple Podcasts, Flightcast YouTube channel, Spotify, or Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Flightcast and all the corresponding shows herein. And also stay tuned in the not-too-distant future for an episode of Flight Review, because we're actually like within a month of Thunderbolts. And you know how I review the comic book films, but there's also a couple of others that I may want to review as well, and those might be dropping on a couple of weekends as well. But if you are a member of patreon.com/theflightcast, thank you, first and foremost, to those of you who are loyal subscribers at patreon.com/theflightcast. And I hope that you are enjoying the bonus content. If you are not a member, you can sign up to be a flight officer at patreon.com/theflightcast and enjoy the bonus content. Lately, that's where I've been doing flight review episodes, specifically talking about movies that you all have likely seen that I have not yet seen. In the last couple of weeks, I reviewed Hellraiser, the four theatrically released Hellraiser films, otherwise known as the Quartet of Torment. I've also reviewed Dunkirk, one of the 2 Christopher Nolan films that I hadn't seen yet. There's only one left that I have to review, and I will in the not-too-distant future. And just recently, I reviewed a Pixar movie, Soul. I talked about, there's a decent list of Pixar movies that I need to get caught up on. That was one of them. All those review episodes can be found at patreon.com/theflightcast, along with a host of other bonus content, including an episode of Flight Speed that did include my first initial thoughts on the Superman extended preview that I'm going to go into a bit more detail with in this particular episode, but tons of other bonus content there as well. And at some point, I got to get back to reading comics so I can do episodes of Flight Report as well and talk about, especially with respect to some comics coming up that are connected to the DCU that was part of that homework assignment that Mr. James Gunn gave us not too long ago. But patreon.com/theflightcast, thank you so much to all of you loyal patrons. And if anybody is interested in signing up for the bonus content, there's almost 200 pieces of it. Amazing that I've posted that much in the last couple of years there. But you can go to patreon.com/theflightcast and sign up to be a flight officer, and that will get you access to the full bonus content available there. All right, let's get into it. First and foremost, before we dive into the absolute lunacy that I've been seeing on social media for the last 72 to 96 hours, however long it's been since the sneak peek was dropped, let's talk about the sneak peek itself. Seriously, 4 minutes and 50 seconds. We already had a hint that we were going to see this online, because when they announced that it was going to be attached to Minecraft the movie this past weekend, there was also suspicion that we were going to get it online ourselves to see as fans, those of us who didn't want to spend the money to see Minecraft. And guess what? It didn't hurt Warner Brothers, because Minecraft the movie set a record for an opening weekend for a video game adaptation. $157 million opening weekend. I didn't see it. I'm pretty sure most of you listening did not see it. Maybe a few of you did, but either way, putting the Superman sneak peek online didn't hurt the movie. Imagine that. Families still took their kids, still took all their people to go see that film, if you will. And now there's a whole host of general audience individuals that saw Minecraft the movie, saw that preview, and a number of them are going, hey, new Superman movie this year. Might go see that. And hopefully they will go see it. For those of us rooting for the success of this movie, if you will. For those of us DC fans that want to see this movie do well. But here, just taking a look at this sneak peek, and I've got it up here, I'm playing it, and, honestly, right off the bat, Man of Steel, okay? And I talked about how, in the Patreon discussion when I talked about this, I said, look, I see Donner in this, I see the Donner films, okay? I see Zack Snyder in this, I see Man of Steel influence, most certainly I do. And come on now, we also see James Gunn's, tone with respect to certain things here, but when you just look at the landscape of how this is shot. I mean, come on. The location of the fortress, and it's funny how you don't realize it at first. You see those crystals kind of halfway sticking up through the ground. You don't realize that that's the fortress immediately when you first see that location. And then he just lands, like really abruptly with a blast, and it's kind of a more comedic blast, if you will, not quite as visceral as in Man of Steel, but no, he's hurt. He's hurt. He's damaged, and we've seen him in this situation before, when we first saw the first teaser. This is an extended version. He is wheezing, he is bruised, he is broken, he is bleeding. This is Superman at his most vulnerable, which I find intriguing because he's not smiling. No, he's not smiling, and he's not saving cats out of trees, and he's not necessarily exuding hope here now, is he? He's been in something. He's been in some shit. He's fought someone or something, and some shit has gone down. That's where we start this extended preview, if you will. And like all the people that the smiles and the bright colors. Oh, okay, so because the blue and the red and the yellow on his uniform is brighter, because this is a brighter bluish hue, automatically more uplifting, automatically more hopeful. No, he got his ass kicked. This thing starts with him having gotten his ass kicked. This is him at his most vulnerable. Seriously. He's damaged. Okay? And really, what is he going to do? Well, all he can do is the high-pitched whistle, which was even more high-pitched than I thought it was. A sonic whistle, if you will, for his loyal, faithful steed, if you will. Not steed, but, his hound. There you go. Krypto. And in comedic form, Krypto shows up. I mean, he's got a cloud of Tasmanian devil dust in snow form behind him, but this Krypto acts like a dog would act. Does he understand that his master is hurt, injured, and in pain? No. He's just a manic, hyper dog, and yeah, this hurts. I'm still not seeing smiles. Where are the smiles from David Corenswet's Superman here? I still don't see it. No, he's pleading, Krypto, please stop jumping on me. Please stop, hurting me. I am in massive pain here. Help me. And it takes Krypto a while to realize this, as a dog would. Krypto's like, come on, let's play, right? Dogs do this. Anybody that has any experience with dogs, this is how a dog behaves. So all the people that are critical about this being, this forced humor, get the hell out of here with that. This is what a dog does. This is organic. This is situational. And I've talked before about how, in my personal opinion, subjectively speaking, DC does subjective, or not subjective, well, it is subjective, but DC does situational humor much better than Marvel, in my opinion. I think Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios, they're the king of one-liners and quips, right? When they need some type of humor injected into a serious moment, that's what they do. One-liner and quip from Cap or from Stark or from somebody else, and they're off to the races. DC, it's all situational. And this is situational. Superman is in distress, and his dog, Krypto, doesn't fully understand it, and kind of treats him like a rag doll. And then after a minute realizes, oh wait, no, he's not in good spirits. Now he's trying to heal him, he's trying to help him, right? He's licking his face. This is what a dog does. This is dog behavior. Anybody that has had a dog understands this is how a dog behaves. And it's not until Superman gives him his cape that he realizes, he's saying, take me home. We got to get him to the fortress. And at that point, Krypto's like, all right, let's go. we're going to the fortress, right? So this is Crypto to the rescue, and we've seen this. He's dragging him in the snow. I love the way this is shot. I love the perspective. And here comes the awesome part, arguably my favorite part of this trailer, the reveal of the Fortress of Solitude. This is awesome. I saw some dipshit, yes, I'm using that word now, cable language rules. I saw some dipshit on threads call this CW quality, and I'm like, okay, you're hating for the sake of being a hater. CW quality, under no circumstances. I've seen CW quality. Remember, I've watched almost the entirety of Supergirl. I've seen almost the, let's see, I watched the 75 to 80% of the CW I watched. I finished all 8 seasons of Arrow, okay? Watched all of that show. I still have like maybe half of the last season of Black Lightning to finish. I have like a season and a half of The Flash to finish. And I have half a season of Supergirl to finish because I got like halfway through season 6, right? This is way better than CW quality. If you're looking at this fortress as it emerges from the ground and you're saying CW quality, you need your eyes checked, or you're just being a hater for the sake of being a hater. And you know what? That's your business. It's all subjective. You want to be a miserable little shit. That's your business. Go ahead and do that. This looks gorgeous. This fortress is fantastic. I love that it reveals itself out of the ground. I love that they're still using the crystals because I do like that. And what's also better is like we enter the fortress and we're in clear classic Silver Age mode. He's got a team of robots. And no, it's not Kellex. I was saying before that it might have been Kellex. No, these robots are numbered. The lead one is clearly Alan Tudyk. I have no idea who the voice of the other one is, but they are carrying Superman into the fortress to help heal him. And here's where more humor comes from. This is the whole Data robot thing. Like, no need to thank us, sir, as Superman says thank you, because what did he say? They would not appreciate it in that regard. And yeah, they're robots. Whatever. They're here to help him. I like the way this looks. And again, I'm not seeing a smile. Where's the smile? I don't see the happy-go-lucky, hopeful smile from David Corenswet's Superman. I really haven't seen it yet, to be honest with you. What's going on here? Come on, come on, Superman the movie fans. Come on, gatekeepers. Come on, pearl clutchers. Where is it? Where's the hope? Where's the grand hope and the smile and the optimism? Where is it? No, he got his ass kicked, and now the robots are helping him heal. Still not seeing any smiles. The only humor I've gotten so far is the fact that Crypto was being manic when he found him, and then when the robot 4 introduces him to the new robot, and he gives the nod like, hey, how you doing? And she's like, oh, he looked at me, right? That's the humor that we've gotten so far. Now this fortress is gorgeous. This fortress is classic Silver Age. I love all the gadgetry and the design of it, and everything that is there, the design of the robots. This is classic Silver Age, people. This is what we're doing. We're going with a classic look, and this is where I talk about James Gunn being a student of the source material. Anybody that questions whether or not he is a student of the source material, you will eat your words if you are, if you have the stones, the fortitude to do so. Because he did his homework on the Suicide Squad. He did his homework on the Guardians of the Galaxy, as far as I know, right? And it looks like he's continued to do his homework here. And he is taking us into a classic Superman, which is great. Because, quite honestly, it's totally different, like on scope and scale, like with respect to visuals, from what we saw with either the Richard Donner film back in 1978 or with Zack Snyder in the 2000s, right? Because we're not dealing with a situation, like I've always said with the Donner films, it was a case where they made New York Metropolis and they put Superman kind of in the real world. And they said, okay, what if Superman was in the real world? Okay, I get that, right? And, there's otherworldly stuff that comes out of that, but it still was like, okay, what if Superman and all of his villains were in the real world, right? And then you get to the Zack Snyder stuff, and the real world aspect is there in terms of the collateral damage and whatnot, but it's still larger than life. It's still a world that is significantly more fantastical than the world that we currently live in, right? But it's, the word gritty and dark, those two words are so flippin' overused. It's not that, it's visceral. It's a case where there are real stakes on the line with respect to what is happening. The stakes weren't that high. I mean, they were reasonably high at times in Superman the movie. They're higher in Man of Steel. They most certainly are. Here, it's not that we don't have high stakes, but here we've clearly got a more comic book feel in terms of, again, Silver Age, classic colors, classic logos, classic designs, classic look. That's what this screams to me. And again, I love the design of this fortress. I love these robots. I love this tech, right? The uniform, the costume is one of our best looks at it in live action so far, without before seeing the movie. And I am okay with it. Like I said, trunks were not make or break for me. Did I want trunks? No. They're there. All right. I'm past that. I'm past that argument. I am, because even though I prefer no trunks. I am not swearing this movie off because the trunks are there. Most certainly not. And it makes sense now. Now that we know that definitively here from what we've seen, now that we've gotten a glimpse that this is Silver Age dynamic, yeah, of course, trunks. Okay, that totally makes sense. I get it. It fits the aesthetic. As far as what we've seen so far, we'll get into, when we actually see the film, we'll get into all of the other things that go with that. But I love this tech. And here we were approaching the scene that is so controversial, right? That's caused such consternation, the healing scene. Now look, I'm going to tell you, as someone that is not as initiated into the comics as others, I came into all of this watching the movies, right? Watching Superman the movie when I was a kid, watching Batman 89 and being deathly afraid of it, all that stuff. I came into this through the movies. Let me tell you how Ray saw this, right? As it was happening in the scene. I went, wow, okay. The fortress itself is realigning. There is, how many lenses is this? It's like three or four like massive lenses. He talks about 292 Saharan prime, right? They're beaming focused sunlight into him, right? This is not your normal. This isn't like I've seen the morons that have been comparing this to Cavill, and his healing, and they've been using the Zack Snyder's Justice League shot where he goes up in the black suit, right? Even though that movie never said it was the solar suit, it just said it was the black suit. Whatever. There was no designation for that in that film. I know what the solar suit is, right? But at any rate, they use that scene. They're like, "Oh, that it's supposed to be healing him. He's not supposed to be in pain." Okay, here's the thing. Clearly, it's accelerated healing because they're using lenses to focus the sunlight, right? Instead of him just getting it from the sun, and it would probably take longer. But the extent of his injuries, which they also listed, is like, okay, he's gonna need a more concentrated burst, and it's enough for all of these robots to be holding him down. Yeah, this. What is wrong with this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is wrong with this. He's healing with focused sunlight rays. And I know there have been plenty of TikTok videos. I know there have been plenty of people that post about this on social media. If you are somebody that has a major problem with this, you need a life. You absolutely need a life. Because you're breaking the cardinal rule of Superman adaptations. And that is this: the story and how Superman is fits the story that they're telling. And it's not going to be exactly the same. What David Corn's what Superman is going to do and what he's going to go through is not going to be the same as Christopher Reeve. It's not going to be the same as Henry Cavill, and it shouldn't be. The rules should change. If you've never seen Superman scream in pain, then you've never watched the animated series. You've also never watched any of the other movies. He screamed in pain in just about all of them for different reasons, right? But you want to gatekeep and you want to act like he would never. That's because you're being a prick. That's because you're being an asshole. That's because you're being the dregs of our fandom. And you really don't belong in our fandom if you're going to gatekeep like that. I see nothing wrong with this. Focused healing to take care of all of his injuries. We're good. We're great here. I've seen nothing in this sneak peek so far that bothers me whatsoever. You know what else really doesn't bother me? The John Murphy theme, because now we get into the montage of all the scenes and stuff that we've seen already before. But the John Murphy theme that is like it's like Williams, but not quite. Like you hear it's Williams inspired, but it's different. It's like, okay, you know what? Is that an indicator of hopefully that Cornswet will get a different theme for this film? I certainly hope so. And we get a couple of more. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that we've already seen. Hawk Girl and the Pa Kent thing, right? This is all stuff from that first teaser trailer that we already saw. With respect to him going to the Daily Planet. That the whatever that ball of whatever that is attacking as he was putting his boots on and he's sitting there with Lois, right? He's having an embrace with Lois in the kitchen, right? The war torn country that has the flag and all that. Like this is all the imagery that we've already seen, right? And obviously they've taken the font from Superman the movie. Okay, all right, fine. We're going classic with it. There's not a ton else here that is brand new that we haven't already seen in that regard, So honestly, at this point, I'm like, all right, what are we doing here, people? What's the problem? I mean, this is a really good sneak peek, right? We get a good idea in 4 minutes and 50 seconds of what the general audience is going to be presented like, hey, new Superman movie, check this out, right? Now obviously the marketing's got to ramp up. It's got to ramp up from this point. But if you had a major problem with anything that was in this teaser, that's a you problem. And you have some shit to work on as far as I'm concerned, because I don't understand what your problem is. Now, if you're somebody that has already had it out for this film for whatever reason, and it's your business, okay? You want to be a miserable misanthrope and you want to, all the people that want to irrationally blame James Gunn for the death of the DCEU and all that bullshit, whatever. You know what? I'll address all of you people in a little bit here. But suffice to say, this teaser, this extended preview, awesome. I saw a number of things that I like, and I saw a number of things that continue to raise my cautious optimism. My optimism remains cautious on this one. And I say cautious not because I don't think I'm going to like the film. I think I am going to like the film. But I thought that before, right? It's like, why do I think I'm going to dislike the film? As far as James Gunn's body of work with respect to comic book films, right? His three Marvel Cinematic Universe comic book films, the trilogy that he did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, between that and the Suicide Squad, I thoroughly enjoy three of the four. The only one that I don't thoroughly enjoy is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And even that, I have softened on in recent years. I've given it a rewatch or two, and I no longer hate it or dislike it. And it is also no longer at the bottom of my list. As far as the MCU rankings are concerned, it hasn't raised a lot. It's still in that bottom third, but it's not at the bottom. Thor Love and Thunder has replaced it. But at any rate, I don't see any reason why I'm not going to like the film. I don't, because James Gunn does things in his films, his comic book films, that I do enjoy. Thoroughly enjoy Guardians Volume 1. Really, really enjoy Guardians Volume 3. That was really well done. Had a lot of heart. It was a great send-off for that group. And I also still believe, and I know I'm on an island with this. I know some of you probably disagree with me on it, but whatever. I don't care. It's all subjective. I still consider The Suicide Squad to be his magnum opus as far as comic book films at this point. He did a lot of shit in that movie that I really liked. The title cards and just the way that he treated the group and just the way that he treated that world, I really liked his aesthetic that he set up with that particular film. And look, I realize that a lot of people, maybe even some of you, are comparing it to the Ayer film, and the reality of the situation is that that's not entirely fair, because and this was an argument, people that came to me and was like, well, he weakened Amanda Waller, she was more of a hard ass when she just killed those six people. It's like, okay, let's fixate on that scene, why don't we? Right? Let's fixate on that and forget all the other stuff that Studio Squad, glossed over. We've never seen the actual version of what David Ayer wanted to present us with Suicide Squad. We've never seen that. We've seen what the studio presented us. It's Studio Squad. And I do still own that film because I do like the extended cut of it for what it is. But I'm still waiting to hopefully at some point, maybe in the not too distant future, see the actual intended Ayer cut. So for me, The Suicide Squad, vastly superior as a film, and certainly because it's James Gunn's actual vision. It's what he wanted to do. It's the freedom that unfortunately David Ayer and Zack Snyder were not afforded in their later films with the DCEU, that James Gunn was fully afforded for the Suicide Squad, and now certainly is afforded for Superman because he's the one in charge. He's co-in charge with Peter Safran. He's in charge of the creative in that regard. So there's no reason that I don't see a reason currently that I won't like this film. I don't. I see many things that will cause me to like this film. It's just a question of, how much do I like this film, and what specifically do I like about it other than things that I've already mentioned from the first teaser and this extended preview, right? That's all we're looking for, So I'm not going into this. I've talked before about how I do not go into movies like so many others do, where it's like, prove to me that you're good. So many fans have such an arrogant, they sit on their high horse and they go, prove to me that you're a good movie. They go in expecting it to be shit, and they want the movie to prove to them that it's not shit. That is so elitist. That is so pretentious. And those are people I really don't care to associate with. If you're one of those people, please stop watching. Please stop listening to this show. Because I have absolutely no quarter for you and your arrogance and your pretentiousness. You feel that studios owe you an experience and they don't owe you shit. What they've done is they have presented a product and you decide whether or not you're going to watch it yourself. And you think I'm defending studios with that. No, I'm telling you that it's a business, and that the studio couldn't give less than two shits what your name is, who you're affiliated with. It is not the customer's always right. And take it from me, as somebody that worked retail for many years, I know the customer's always right. In fact, most of the time, the customer's dead ass wrong with a lot of the shit that they do. And that probably has only gotten worse. It all stems from entitlement. And there's way too much fan entitlement with that. So, with that in mind, I'm not going into this film with a prove to me that you're good mentality. I'm going into it with the same mentality that I go into every film with. Prove to me that you're bad. I am walking into this. I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to walk into that theater on July 11th expecting to enjoy myself. That is my expectation. I think I'm going to like what I see. And when I come at it from that perspective, guess what? I end up being happier than anyone who went into that theater saying, prove to me that you're good. Because I don't have the arrogance and I don't have the entitlement and I don't set my expectations so unrealistically high with respect to my own personal thoughts on what the movie and the characters should do that I am so disappointed and deflated and dejected and misanthropic when it doesn't happen. Okay? I recently went through that with Soul. I talk about that in the Patreon review, patreon.com/theflightcast. I had an idea where the movie was going to go, and it went in a different direction. Did I allow it to ruin what I thought of the movie? Well, no, but I'll go into detail on that if you listen to it on Patreon. But my point is I don't see the point in like this arrogance and this expectation. And whenever I hear a fan talk about, well, you vote with your dollars, and if you accept Drek, if you accept shite, then they're going to give you shite. It is not that serious. It's movies, okay? Get off your high horse, unnail yourself to the cross, and stop acting sanctimonious and prickish in that regard. And accept that what we're being given is a studio-funded piece of art from the creatives, from James Gunn, from people who have at least passion for what they're doing, if not passion for the character and what they're doing as well, right? Like, they're submitting for your approval, right? Like, they're from the Midnight Society, essentially. Like, submitting for your approval, they call this story Superman or whatever it is, okay? And then you go into it and it's like, okay, if you're going into it just to hate it, if you're going into it to dislike it or acting like it's going to be crap, why the hell did you buy a ticket in the first place? That is such a miserable, pathetic existence to go into a movie expecting that it's going to be bad. And then you're gonna be like, and the rationale for this is, I was pleasantly surprised when it was good. Why did you have to be an asshole in the first place and act like it was gonna be bad? What did you waste your money for? Why have that mindset in life? How miserable and shitty is your life that you got to feel that way, that you got to act that way, that you have to proceed going into a movie theater that way? The day that happens, that I'm done watching movies, the day I ever even remotely think of entering that mindset of prove to me that you're good, I'm done watching movies. Movies are not for me. I'm going to go and not appreciate art. I'm going to go and not be in touch with my emotions. I'm going to go and be someone that, just wants to be miserable and calculated all the live long day in that regard. And it couldn't be me. Absolutely could not be me. And I really hope it isn't you if you're listening to this. But yeah, those are my thoughts, just to get that out here first and foremost so that you know precisely what my perspective is on the extended preview itself. All right. Now let's talk about the reaction to this. And I'm going to address the two primary groups. Actually, there's three groups that I'm going to address. First, I'm going to address the cults, and then I'm going to address the rational people. The first cult that I'm going to address is, in fact, the Snyder cult. Snyder cultists, if you're listening to this show, or if one of your friends is hate listening to this show because I don't like you and you don't like me, and it's been that way for a while now. But Snyder cultists, I want you to listen very carefully to me. You're all pathetic losers. Every single one of you. And I know this because I interacted with most of you in that stupid Reddit sub. You're all pathetic. You're all disgusting. You're all delusional. And you're all losers. And I don't mean that just as an insult. I mean that literally. You lost. You've 1000% lost the plot. You lost the battle. And you most certainly lost the war. Because you didn't appreciate what happened 4 years ago for the miracle that it was. You didn't appreciate the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. You thought you did, but you didn't. Because you got greedy, and you got disgusting, and you turned into Two-Face. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and you're the villains now. You're absolutely everything that you swore to despise at the beginning of all this. And don't worry, I will address the anti-Snyder cult after I address you, but you are now no better than them. You are no better than all of the assholes that called you wrong and incorrect for liking Man of Steel and certainly for liking Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, whether it's the theatrical cut or the Ultimate Edition. Ultimate Edition is preferable, of course. But you are no better than the people. You're no better than those bloggers, critics, and fanboys that told you were wrong and bullied you on a consistent basis for liking what you like. The ones that told you it was wrong. The one that told you that Marvel was better. The one that told you that Civil War had a better handle on things. The ones that told you didn't know shit about the comics. The ones that told you Zack Snyder didn't know shit about the comics. You're just like them. You are them. You are no better. You are just as bad because you didn't turn the other cheek. And yeah, turning the other cheek is important here because you don't ever want to be as disgusting as the people that you hate. This isn't fire with fire. This isn't like, well, they made me this way. You are a shitty social media asshole. You are someone living in the deepest, dankest corners of the internet, and you're shouting into an echo chamber, and you want everybody to pay attention to your bullshit. And you keep spouting, restore the Snyderverse this, sell to Netflix that. You keep spouting all this illogical, delusional bullshit, acting like it's going to get you anywhere, but no, it really should land you in mental help zone. You really need to go seek some psychiatric care after this. I'm not even joking. We all need, on some level, some mental health help, some level of psychiatric care, especially if you live in the United States. I'm not going to go too far into that, but you know what I'm talking about. We all need some level of that. You need more, Snyder cultists. You need a lot more, because you've lost the plot. You've lost all sense of reality at this point, and you're living in your world of believing that if you act as evil and as disgusting as the bloggers, the critics, and the fanboys and the comic creators acted toward you, then everything is going to be okay. You are now part of Nerd MAGA. You act just like they do. You are disgusting just like they are. And because of you, I get dum-dums and dipshits on threads that say things like, not all conservatives are Snyder fans, but all Snyder fans are conservatives. And I told that individual, as a black Snyder fan that voted for Harris, F all the way off. Before I reported his comment, which nothing will happen to that, but I reported it anyway, and then I blocked his ass. It is so disgusting that anybody would make that equation with the entirety of the Snyder fandom, but that's what they see you as. That's what you're looked at. You are not freedom fighters. You are not doing anything to forward the progress of anything other than your own delusions. You are disgusting. You are toxic. You are no better than the cult that created you in the first place. And let's be clear as far as the hard truth to your behavior towards this new Superman film. There is absolutely nothing that you can do that will affect the progress of this film. There is nothing you can do to affect its production. There is nothing you can do to affect its box office. There is nothing that you can do to affect its reception. Because you are disorganized, you are without resources, you are 1% of an already small part of the audience, because fans in general are 5 to 10% of the total audience if we're lucky, and you are the really small vocal minority that can't do shit. And let's be really honest here, not only can't you do shit, but all of you that say you're going to boycott, half of you will deny that and hate watch the movie on July 11th. I know you will. Whether you admit it or not, you're going to hate watch it because you want a laundry list of things to bitch about and get on YouTube and spew your Nerd MAGA bullshit about. You want things to complain about. You're not going to be able to complain about shit unless you actually watch the movie. You're going to watch it. You're going to pay money to watch it. Don't tell me you're not. Not all of you, but at least half of you will go do it. You'll go hate watch it. And then you'll get on YouTube and spew out like a 4.5, 5 hour long video on how it gets this wrong and it gets that wrong. You idiots do not care about DC. You only care about your own selfish aims and what you want out of the Snyderverse DC. That's all you want. You don't care about the actual DC comic. You're no longer Superman fans. You're no longer Batman fans. You're no longer fans of DC Comics. You're posers. You're fake at this point. Because you are not interested in the adaptation of these characters. You're not interested in being open-minded about these characters. You're only interested in your own selfish aims, and you're letting that bitterness tear a hole in you and turn you into monsters. The same monsters that bullied you 9 years ago when you said you loved BVS, when you said you loved Man of Steel. Congratulations, you have become the villain. You have not died a hero, metaphorically speaking or whatnot. You have lived long enough to see yourself become the villain. You're villains now, and you're awful, and there is nothing you can do. You are toothless. There is nothing you can do to affect this box office. Absolutely nothing. No boycotts. Nothing that you do on the internet will sway this whatsoever. So, regardless of what Superman does at the box office, right? If it fails, you didn't do shit. Has nothing to do with you. The general audience dwarfs you, and the rest of us rational fans dwarf you. And we will outvote you in this regard. Like, that's not even a question, because we are still Superman fans, we are still DC fans, and we want to go enjoy ourselves and have a good time. We will outvote you, we will outshout you. You are nothing. You are absolutely meaningless at this point. You are shouting into the void, and you're all pathetic. Every last one of you cultists. Enjoy the fact that there is nothing you can do about this. Enjoy the fact that you can't stop this movie. Enjoy the fact that no matter what happens, no boycott, no memes, no angry videos on TikTok or YouTube will stop this movie. It will not sway shit. If anything happens to this movie, you will have nothing to do with it. The general audience doesn't even know you exist, let alone why you're angry at James Gunn, irrationally speaking, because you think he destroyed the DCEU. All of you go get psychiatric help. All of you go touch grass. All of you go find some a companion or some type of doctor, therapy, whatever, acupuncture, whatever you need. Find it, and for your own sake, right? The rest of us are going to be fine, but for your own sake, find that help because you desperately need it. Nothing you do, nothing you say on any social media platform, whether it is Threads or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Reddit or the hellscape run by the South African Nazi, none of that, none of what you say on any of these platforms will change a damn thing about how Superman will be received by the rest of the fandom, the rational fandom, and most certainly by the general audience. We outnumber you, we outrank you, we're not pathetic. Mind you, I said the rational fans and the majority of the general audience. We are not pathetic. We are still fans of DC Comics characters, and we still want to have a good time with the movies, regardless of who is directing them. Now, go sit in a corner, think about what you've done, or, curse my name and say whatever, and you know what? Have a nice life and seek help. That's all I have to say to you at this point. Now, to those of you in the anti-Snyder cult who just got a real kick out of what I said to the Snyder cult, here's a bite of a reality sandwich for you. It's your fault. It's all your fault. You started this 9 years ago because you got on your high horse of pretentiousness and arrogance, and you told those people, you told me, and you told everybody that was a fan of Man of Steel and BVS that we were wrong for liking it, that we didn't understand the character, that we'd never read the comics. You're still telling us that we've never read the comics. You're still telling us that we have no idea what we're talking about when we defend Henry Cavill's Superman, when we talk about how it does this, it does that. When we give you evidence of everything that you say his Superman didn't do, you're still shouting us down. You're still telling us, oh, well, you only found the 3 times he smiled, or you only found this, or you only found that. You're still telling us that we're wrong. And you're hiding under the guise of, well, it's just my opinion. Get the F out of here with that. I know what that is. I've seen that rationalization, and it doesn't cut any more ice with me. It's been 9 years of this bullshit, and you effers started this in the first place. The Snyder cult would not exist if it were not for you. This goes on you. This is your fault. You started this. When you kept Man of Steel 9 years ago, or however, back in 2013, when you made those stupid infographics about how so much more damage occurred in Metropolis than in New York for the first Avengers film a year prior, right? When you started doing that, when you started complaining about the desaturation, when you started whining about Zod's neck being snapped, all of that bullshit. Then you got the comic creators on your side and talked about how Zack Snyder doesn't know how to write Superman. Clearly, he hates the character and he wants this, he wants that. All your little arrogant bullshit started this. So do I have sympathy for the Snyder cult coming for you? No, I don't. I most certainly do not. And I certainly do not have sympathy for them trying to torpedo things for you now. And everything that I said to them remains true, that movie boycotts in general do not work. They're not going to affect this whatsoever. But guess what? Neither are you. You are not the cause of why this is happening. You're not why this occurred. As far as James Gunn and what he's doing with Superman, what's going to happen is he's going to do something in that Superman film that you're not going to like. He is. He may already be doing things in that Superman film that you're not going to like. But right now, you're just clinging on to everything that he gives you because it's not Snyder. And that's all you have left in your lives is hatred for Zack Snyder. And you think you're rational and you think you're measured, and you're not. You're not DC fans anymore either. You're not Superman fans anymore either. Because guess what you do? You cling to Superman the movie like it's your emotional support binky. And nothing apart from that will be acceptable for you. So the second James Gunn does something that is a little different, that is a little off the cuff, right? At some point, you're going to get over, you're going to push past the Snyder hatred, because here's what's going to happen. I can see this. Say the general audience appreciates the take on Superman that James Gunn gives us, but there's some things that his Superman does that are clearly not the same as Christopher Reeve, and you don't think it's quite as hopeful or quite as appropriate for your kids to watch, right? You're going to get on your high horse, you're going to stand on that soapbox, and all of a sudden, you're going to be like, well, no, the movie wasn't that good, because I know you. Okay, I know you anti-Snyder cultists. If it's not Superman the movie, if it's not anything like exactly what Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner gave you, then it's unacceptable. In live action, that is, right? As far as cinematic live action, because you don't say shit about the cartoons, you don't say shit about the TV shows, right? Except to say that you think Superman and Lois is a better version of Superman than what we saw in the Snyderverse. You will take any chance you get to take pot shots at the Snyderverse, and I'm already seeing it, right? Like, I knew this was going to happen. I knew precisely how you effers were going to react. I knew exactly how you dipshits were going to behave as soon as this movie was announced. I'm like, okay, here we go. Brace yourselves. Here comes the, wow, James Gunn knows Superman better than Zack Snyder. It's already happening. I'm already seeing you dipshits say this. And guess what? You started this, and you were the other side of the shit-stained coin that is the cultist. You're the other cult. The cult that a lot of you don't want to believe you're in, but you most certainly are. It's the cult of Superman the movie. And it's unfortunate that you have to deify that film as though it's something to worship and it's something to be culty over, because it's not even necessarily, subjectively speaking, the best Superman movie. It might be for you, but it's all subjective. The thing is, it's not the standard. It's not the gold standard. It's not what all Superman movies should hold themselves up to. That bullshit that they had, where the thing about Jeff Johns and Kevin Feige saying, we watch Superman the movie before we go into every production. No, don't flip and do that. You should allow your creatives to tell their own stories. You should want a more diverse situation, right? That doesn't mean completely ignore Superman the movie as far as movie structure, but it does mean that it shouldn't all be uniform. And it's not supposed to be this gold standard for everything that occurs, for everything that is made. Okay, Superman the movie, I own Superman the movie. I own all of the Christopher Reeve Superman films. I like obviously the first two I really like. The second two, there are parts of them that all right, not the greatest movies whatsoever at all, but I can't own part of a set in that regard, right? And I still got to get Superman Returns because that technically counts under that continuity. But, they're not the best, right? They have their flaws. Whether you wish to admit that or not, subjectively speaking, I think they have flaws. You're welcome to disagree with me all you like, but guess what you're not going to tell me? You're not going to tell me that I'm wrong. You're not going to tell me that I don't know the character. You're not going to tell me that I don't know Superman because I'm not as pretentious and arrogant as you are about it. You demand perfection. Perfection is not Christopher Reeve. Perfection is not Richard Donner. Perfection is not John Williams. Maybe it is in your world, but guess what? You live in your own dark corner as well. It's the opposite corner. Basically, what we've got is a boxing ring, and you got the Snyder Cult on one end, and you've got you assholes on the other end. You both suck. You're both awful. You're both pathetic. You're both disgusting. You're both single-minded. You're both selfish. And you both make things so much worse for our fandom. Those of us that wish to be rational, those of us that wish to enjoy multiple takes of Superman because we realize that Superman has been around for nearly 90 years and has had several writers, several artists, several different characterizations, right? And we go into the movies basically saying, well, let's see what this version is like. Because we realize that there are certain versions where he is a bit more like Christopher Reeve. And there are certain versions where he's more like Henry Cavill. And there are versions where he's more than likely he's going to be like David Corenswet. And we're going to be able to look at all those films and we're going to be able to go, well, all right, we see where this version goes. We see where that version goes. While you are still stuck on March of the Villains with Lex Luthor and Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, may he rest in peace. You're still stuck on Marlon Brando as Jor-El. You're still stuck on Christopher Reeve and You'll Believe a Man Can Fly. That's all you have. That's all that you're allowing yourself to attach to. You won't accept anything else. And because that, you always want to pick a fight, and you always feel like you're on the defense, and you always feel like you've got to fight the cult that you created. If you had been more open-minded, if you had kept your flippin' mouth shut, or rather if you had just said, I didn't care for Man of Steel, I didn't care for BVS, but I'm glad that you liked it, right? Like, if you could say that shit, like, if you could at least find some way to say that instead of calling us wrong and telling us we don't know what we're doing, you would have never created the cult. The cult would have never existed. The cult would have never happened. The Rotten Tomato shit wouldn't have occurred. Warner Brothers, as stupid as their leadership was back then, wouldn't have listened to you and wouldn't have torpedoed the DCEU the way they did. Oh, that's absolutely on you. I mean, ultimately the blame rests with Warner Brothers in terms of them being completely incompetent, but they listened to you. It started with you, Anti-Snyder cult. You are just as pathetic, just as disgusting, and just as reprehensible as the Snyder cult in almost every way. You say the same toxic shit, just from a different angle. You think you're better. You think you're better than the rest of us. You think you're better than them. You think that you're more rational than them. You are not. You were just as irrational. You were just as selfish. You were just as single-minded. And you were just as much not Superman and not DC fans at this point. You do not belong in this fan base anymore because you're only clinging to one version of Superman. And unless it's that version, you can't handle it. You can't accept it. So when James Gunn does something to piss you off, and I hope he does, because so far you're just clinging on to your hatred of the Snyder Cult, you're ignoring the fact that David Cornsweat's Superman hasn't smiled once. Not once. No teethy smile at all. He has smiled more in the press tours as David Cornsweat than he has in a single piece of promotional material that we've gotten so far for Superman, right? Because of that, you're clinging on to, you're ignoring that, and you're clinging to your hatred of the Snyder Cult, but you're going to get to a point where the cult dies down and the general audience starts getting into this new version of Superman, hopefully, right? We'll have a generation of kids that will now have another Superman that isn't Henry Cavill or Christopher Reeve to grow up with. And when they start hopefully accepting this version of the character, you're going to be left with what you don't like about it. And then you're going to come for James Gunn because that's what you do. That's what you did with Zack Snyder. That's what you're going to do to James Gunn eventually at some point if his Superman is accepted. And even if his Superman isn't accepted, you're still going to come for him because you're going to say, oh, well, it wasn't this or it wasn't that. Maybe your Snyder hatred will keep you from doing that, but either way, you're not going to be 100% happy. You're not. Because your only happiness will be derived from the Snyder cult being upset. Because unless James Gunn's movie is a carbon copy in spirit of Superman the movie from 1978, there's going to be a part of you that will have cognitive dissonance. There's going to be a part of you that goes, oh, this isn't for me. And maybe you'll be nicer, maybe you'll be more fair, but deep down you're going to burn inside. Because you know it's over. Because you know it's no longer about you and it's no longer about what you want. And I yearn for that day. Because once again, you're no longer Superman fans. You're no longer DC fans. You are selfish pricks. Just like the Snyder cult that you hate. You're both two sides of the same shit-stained coin, and the sooner that we are rid of you as a fan base, the better off we are. Because the majority of the division comes from you. You started this 9 years ago. You created the cult. Your cult created another cult, and now the both of you are ruining shit for all of us, the rest of us, with respect to discourse. Go away. Go play in a corner and go fight the Snyder cult all the livelong day. You two deserve each other. You most certainly do. The Snyder cult and the anti-Snyder cult, you both deserve each other. You're both irrational. You're both pathetic. You're both disgusting. Both of you go sit in a corner and play fight, slap fight. Do whatever dumb shit you're going to do. Just go fight over there, okay? Seriously, get out of my face. All of you. Now, before I end this rant-filled episode, I got to talk to my fellow rational DC fans. Those of you that are still in the DC and Superman fan base. Those of you who, whether you completely care for either Christopher Reeve or Henry Cavill's version, you're still open-minded enough to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to squash on anybody's fun. I'm not going to tell anybody that they're wrong or right for which version they like, because they're all valid, right? When I post a picture of Superman and it's Christopher Reeve, Henry Cavill, and David Cornsweat, and I say this is a picture of Superman, whether you like it or not, and you agree with that photo, these are the people I'm talking to, the rational fans. Those of you that just want to put all this tribalist bullshit behind us, You don't like either of the cults. You don't like the people that do the comparison shit and, always want to shit all over Man of Steel and Henry Cavill's version, and you also don't like the people that are just irrationally and delusionally trying to hate James Gunn to restore the Snyderverse. You don't like either cult, right? Rational Superman fans, Wally, you, Phil, I'm talking to Anthony, I'm talking to you now, okay? Regular listeners, rational fans, one very important, and John, of course, John R. One very important message that we all have to remember, that I have to convey, that we just have to stick in our brains going forward. And it's this: ignore the cults. Seriously. Don't give them energy. Don't give them air. Don't respond to their shit. And listen, I first and foremost need to stop that, okay? Like, earlier today, I was on Threads, and for the last couple of days, right, I found this account that was consistently tweeting these TikTok videos of these people that are just all up in arms about what's going on, what the Snyder Cult is saying, and all the criticisms over the Superman preview and the healing and all that, right? And these are people that the reason that I was okay with it at first is because these were people that still defended Man of Steel, right? People that actually like Man of Steel, people that actually like the Snyder stuff. So it's like, oh, okay, all right. There's the open-mindedness, but there's a problem inherent, and I saw it today, and that's the fact that this person is continuing to post videos, even from Snyder haters, that are like attacking, the Snyder cultists for attacking the preview, right? And it's like, okay, dude, like, and the problem with the video that he reposted from TikTok is that this individual was positing that the Snyder cult was ruining the perception of the movie, and that they were changing the conversation. They were feeding misinformation, and they're ruining this and they're ruining that, which is bullshit. Because as I said, the Snyder Cult has no power. None whatsoever. There's nothing they can do. There's absolutely nothing that they can do, okay? They believe that there's more that they can do because of what happened with Zack Snyder's Justice League, but they don't. What they don't realize was that at that point in time, we were all on their side. The rational fans were on their side. Ben Affleck was on their side. Henry Cavill was on their side. Gal Gadot and Ezra and Ray Fisher, everybody was on their side with respect to that. And once that movie got made and the reality of the situation we came to grips with in terms of, okay, well, we see where Warner Brothers is going with this, and it's been 4 years anyway. All right, well, let us be thankful that we got Zack Snyder's Justice League, and let us move on in that regard, right? Once we realized that, we moved on in our lives, and we did what we were going to do, right? We remained rational. So the cultists have lost that power. They've lost our support. And there's no way that they can get anything done without our support in that regard. And it wasn't just that, but also the set of circumstances that allowed us to really have any type of movement to get that thing done in the first place. But it's a very different situation than we find ourselves in now, because they are asking for completely delusional shit, and we know this, right? We understand this, and they have no power. They only have the power that we give them, guys. When we give them attention, when we boost their shit, that's when we give them power. So all these people that are bitching and moaning about how they're changing the narrative and they're screwing things up and they're putting out disinformation, no, it's because you're forwarding it. It's because you're complaining, because you're giving it air. Leave them alone. Let them sit in their little echo chamber. I promise you, the general audience doesn't know who any of them are, let alone what they're even pissed off about. Nor do they care, even if they did know. The general audience, especially the $157 million worth of people that went to go see the Minecraft movie, saw that extended preview and went, oh, new Superman movie. Might go see that, right? And so the hope, of course, is that they do go see that, right? Because those of us that don't root for the failure of a Superman movie, those of us that don't root for the failure of any DC movie, whether it's directed by Zack Snyder or James Gunn, we want to see it do well. We want to see it succeed because we want to see a DC cinematic universe succeed. Maybe it won't get to the level of the MCU, but we would like to see a period of success for a shared cinematic universe, in its own right, for DC Comics characters, those of us that are DC fans first, right? So we got to ignore the bullshit. We got to ignore the cultists. We got to let them duke it out in their corners and share their bullshit, right? You just block, mute, and hide all their shit, right? Yeah, I was reminded this past week that Hide for Everyone is absolutely a feature on any dipshit that posts on any of my threads. And boy, do I enjoy using that feature, because I enjoy hiding whatever bullshit they have to say from the rest of the world. No, you came here to start shit. Nobody will see it. Not only will no one see it, but you can't repost it because now you're blocked. Get to stepping, right? I love that feature. I love being able to, push that aside. And we need to do more of that. People have brought up, from a social political standpoint, that in the early days of Threads, the behavior was, people that were leaving Twitter like I did, way before, the election and Blue Sky became bigger as it has. The people that left Twitter in the first place came over to Threads, and when we saw dumbasses on Threads posting ridiculous shit, we just blocked them and moved on. We need to get back to that. We need to absolutely do that with respect to this discourse because it's only going to get worse. The cultists on both sides are only going to make this worse because it's only going to get louder from the Snyder cult about how it's a travesty and they don't know the character and restore the Snyderverse and sell DC to Netflix and all that delusional crap, right? That's only going to get worse. And then it's only going to get worse from the anti-Snyders who are like, well, this is exactly what DC needed. This is how Superman is supposed to be. And this just proves that Zack Snyder didn't know what he was talking about and all that stupid shit, all the tribalism, right? It's only going to get worse from both cults. And, even more so from the anti-Snyders, maybe because they keep thinking that they're not a cult when they are. They most certainly are. Like I said, they're the other side of a shit-stained coin. They're on one side, the Snyder cult is on the other in that regard. They're both horrible. They're both disgusting. They're both pathetic. And we need to ignore them both. We need to not give any of their rhetoric, any of their bullshit, any energy, any reposts, any quotes, anything like that. We need to ignore them. And again, I know it's difficult because I have not done a great job of ignoring them myself. I need to really ignore them. I need to not forward their bullshit myself. But I'm also urging and imploring you to do the same. They don't all need to be responded to, right? There's no shame with these people. They just want their shit boosted. And that's never been more clear to me than it was today. When I saw, again, this was an account, has like over 450 followers, right? Like some comic podcast or whatever. And he just kept reposting the people complaining about the complaints about the Superman preview, right? And I'm like, you guys can mute and block Snyder cultists, right? You don't have to listen to their bullshit. You can have them, argue in an echo chamber and fly into the ether as far as you care, right? You can do that. But they don't want to do that. What they would rather do is they would rather repost their complaints and share their misery, like as far as and they're complaining like because they want people on their side and they want to get likes. They're basically trolling for likes. They're putting all of the shit out here like I can't believe the Snyder Cult did this, I can't believe the Snyder Cult did that, so that people will shame them and give them likes. This dude had like over 1,000 likes or whatever, or no, it was like 300 some odd likes. Reposting this video. He's like, as a DC and a Snyder fan, I hear you, bro. Yeah, okay, whatever. No, you're profiting, in social media terms, you're profiting off of the misery from the anti-Snyder cult, right? The anti-Snyder cult goes after the Snyder cult, and you're basically trying to profit off of that. Yeah, you're no better. You're absolutely no better. You're just as disgusting. And those people will be blocked. Because I have no interest in anybody that's just going to keep paying attention to that shit and keep complaining about it. I don't wish to do that any further, and I don't suggest that you rational fans do that either. The fact of the matter is that neither of these cults are going to make much headway with respect to the future of the DCU. James Gunn's going to do what he does. And he knows that his aim is the general audience. He knows that's who he has to capture, who he has to captivate in those theaters. He's done it already with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And if he had had a fair shake in terms of, not a global pandemic, and the Suicide Squad had opened in a regular theater, like regular opening in 2021, dare I say that film would have done well. It may have been one of the few later, Hamada-verse films, if you will. I hate that flippant term because he didn't have a plan. It wasn't really a verse. But it would have been one of the more successful ones, in my opinion, right? With respect to that. So James Gunn knows where his aim is. James Gunn has done a great job so far with PR and as far as connecting comic creators and, connecting us with the source material that is inspiring all of this in that regard. And I've already seen people talk about All-Star Superman and how this is from this and that is from that with respect to what we've seen in this extended preview and whatnot. So it is time to focus on that. It is time to shut the cults out. It is time to ignore their bullshit. It is time to let them scream into the void. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't comment on what they're doing. You can comment on it. But as far as boosting it, as far as quoting them, as far as responding to them, I urge you not to. because I'm gonna stop. I seriously am gonna stop. These people, like when I see you guys, last couple of days, when I see Phil or Anthony or anybody else, when I see you guys respond to them, I just block them immediately. I don't even like. Sometimes I've responded and I shouldn't have, but I block. So in that regard, okay, thank you for presenting me with another person to block, but we don't need to be amplifying their bullshit. We just don't. There is no shame with them. There's no like we're not shaming them. We're not exposing them. They don't care. They just want the engagement. They're engagement farming. People out there engagement farming. They manipulate us to get the engagement farming going, and then it screws up our algorithm unless we mute or block those people. And even when we do that, there's still some stuff that flies through the cracks. Like I've seen some anti-Snyder shit pop up on my feed as a result of this, So we just need to knock it off. We just need to ignore both of these cults. They're both the dregs of this fandom. They're both horrifically toxic. They both do not deserve to be part of this fandom. They are not Superman or DC fans anymore at this point. They're both selfish, pretentious little shits. And they need to go off into the echo chamber and yell at each other while the rest of us prepare for whatever James Gunn is going to give us and prepare for rational discussions, where we can actually talk about, okay, well, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't necessarily care for, here are my preferences, what did you think, and have an open-minded discussion without telling people that they're right or wrong, or without being angry at James Gunn for an irrational reason, or without worshiping Zack Snyder to an unhealthy level, a selfishly unhealthy level, because none of those cultists will say boo about Rebel Moon or Twilight of the Gods or any of the other shit that he's done, right? And they're probably not going to see this UFC movie, which I have some thoughts on that. I know a couple of you do as well, but either way, right? It's time to shut out the cultists. It's time to not focus on that bullshit. It's time to just move forward. Don't amplify their bullshit, I would say. If it still bothers you and you still want to, post your own stuff and post your own threads and comments, I get that. But as far as commenting on them and as far as boosting their shit, I think we should stop. I really believe we need to stop doing that. We need to just shut their shit out. Let them scream their mindless, delusional bullshit on either side, Snyder Cult or Anti-Snyder Cult, into the void. Block their asses so that our algorithm can't see it. And let's start building the rational echo chamber rule, because all social media is echo chambers. Anybody that tells you, oh, if you do that, you're just building an echo chamber. They're all echo chambers. Social media is one big ass echo chamber that, we all build our own echo chambers within. Okay. It's all about how you cultivate yours to protect your own peace. And that's the most important part nowadays, is to protect your peace at whatever cost, or like by whatever means necessary, right? If it means you got to block a bunch of assholes, it means you got to mute a bunch of dipshits, then go ahead and do that. Don't feel guilty, and don't let anybody else make you feel guilty about that, because being truly open-minded means that you don't tolerate bullshit, means that you don't tolerate toxicity. Toxicity is toxicity, guys. There's really not a whole lot of long and short with respect to that. If somebody's dropping trowel on Zack Snyder or James Gunn for personally subjective reasons, that's not somebody you want to deal with, then don't deal with them. Kick them out. Don't allow them into your social circle. Don't allow them into your algorithm, because we're the rational ones, and we're the ones that will align the most with the general audience, because we're going to go into Superman on July 11th, and we're going to have an open mind. Maybe we've already made up our minds that we're not going to like it better than Man of Steel. Maybe we have, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to like it. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have good things to say about what we see, because we probably will, because at the end of the day, we are the Superman fans. We are the DC fans. We're the ones not selfish and arrogant enough to only be beholden to either Christopher Reeve or Henry Cavill or Richard Donner or Zack Snyder in that regard, as far as our Superman takes. We can enjoy all of it. We can enjoy the piece of all. We can consider all of it valid in that regard. We can have our preferences. We most certainly can. But that doesn't mean that we shit on somebody else's preferences, because we don't do that. We're the rational ones. So just wanted to get that out there. That's arguably the most important message that I have. Just stop boosting the haters. Stop boosting the Snyder cult and the anti-Snyder cult. Don't boost either one of them, because they're both awful, and they both do not deserve our attention or our energy any further. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, that is going to do it for this particular episode of the Fightcast. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Thank you so much for listening to my rantings and ravings and all of my energies with respect to this. I know you've got some thoughts on this. I know you do. You listen to this episode and, Whether you agree or disagree with any of my rants, I know you've got some thoughts. And if you want to share any of them with Feedback Circle, that we'll talk about this Friday, because we're going to be talking about this for a little bit, for sure. It's only beginning. It's going to ramp up with respect to the Superman conversation going forward. If you have any thoughts on anything that I have said, if you want to share your thoughts on the Superman and DC fandoms at large, or either of the cults, if you will, that we should be shunning and ignoring en masse, you know where to find me on Threads and Instagram at the Flightcast. You know where to find me on Blue Sky at Flightcast. There's also the Flightcast Facebook page, and of course, I can be reached by email at ray@theflightcast.com. All right, take care, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.